Welcome and to this last of our weekly offering for the Parsha of vaYera, and we get into the heart of the Parsha, which is this famous conversation that Abraham has with God prior to the destruction of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah and the other three cities as well. I'm going to go ahead and make a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And now I just have to find our passage, which is, excuse me 1 second, there it is. Oops, that's not what okay, that's what I want here. And I'm going to do this, and here we are. So, we just had this moment when God is sharing with Abraham what he's about to do. Vayigash Avraham. And Abraham drew near, right? He drew near, Vayomar, and he said, Ha'af tispeh tzadik im rasha. Will you wipe out, destroy the righteous with the wicked? Rashi. Vayigash Avraham. So Rashi looks at the connotation of the word vayigash, to draw near. Matzinu, we find hagasha, that drawing near, the milchama, for battle, could be for war, as in Samuel, 2 Samuel verse 10, vayigash Yoav, where it refers to Joab and says he drew near, etc. And that was in a context of a battle.
I think here it says chapter 10, verse 13.
Okay, yeah, this doesn't have the verse numbers. It only has the chapter numbers.
Okay, you said verse 10.
More, I'm sorry, I meant chapter 10. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for being so careful. Thank you. That's fantastic, Lauren. That was good. It was good. I'd love to tell you it was the deliberate mistake, but it wasn't. Okay, thank you. With friends like you, I keep standing. Okay. Hagasha, there's also the drawing near, lefius, for reconciliation. And here we have the famous, beautiful passage, Vayigash Elav Yehuda, where Judah draws near to Joseph, right? He doesn't know it's Joseph. And Joseph has just told him that they can all go free, but he's keeping the person in whose sack his cup was found, and of course that's Benjamin. And Judah will not allow that. And he draws close to Joseph to speak to him about that. V'hagasha letfilah, and we also have drawing near in prayer. And that's in 1 Kings, I'm going to say it carefully now, chapter 18. Vayigash Eliyahu Hanavi, and Elijah the prophet drew near. Ulachol Ela, and in this particular context where we have Vayigash Avraham, Nichnas Avraham ledaber kashut, Abraham drew near to speak harsh words, if we wanted to translate it that way. In other words, to challenge, right? To challenge, like in a war, in a battle. Ulefius, and for reconciliation, ulitfilah, and also for prayer. All three. That Vayigash denotes all three activities on Abraham's part. Going on, Ha'af tispeh. Will you also destroy? Hagam tispeh la. Okay. Will you also? That's what it means. Will you also destroy the righteous along with? So when it says ha'af tispeh, he's meaning, will you also destroy? Uletirgum shel onkelos, but with regards to the Aramaic translation of onkelos, shetirgamor lashon roges, who translates that af, because the word af can also mean anger, so he translates it as having a meaning of anger. Kach pirusho. This is the way to understand his translation. Ha'af yasiacha, will anger carry you off? Will anger control you? He's saying to God. Shetispe tzadik im rasha, to the point where you will destroy the righteous with the wicked. Just want to point out the Aramaic here. Ukrev Avraham, Abraham drew near, Va'amar, and said, Havir Gaz. There's the word that connotes anger. In anger, will you in anger destroy the righteous Zakah im Chayava, and those who are sinning, who are wicked? Okay, so just an understanding. And so you know he's really challenging God in a very profound kind of way. You know, in our own context, of course, we don't really think twice about it because we don't have a really, really, really deep understanding of God, and so we don't necessarily act in a very respectful kind of way. But Abraham would understand this and would understand the awesome nature of God. And I'm going to ask if you can make sure that you're on mute, unless you want to ask a question or comment. All right? Onwards. This is some of the greatest stuff, I will tell you. So he goes on to say, Ulai, perhaps, yesh chamishim tzadikim b'toch ha'ir. Maybe there are 50 righteous people in the city. Ha'af tispeh, will you wipe them out? Oh, by the way, I noted that the word tispeh may be related to the word sof. I think I made a note in the margin, but maybe I didn't. Okay, I thought oh, there it is, right there, right? And he uses the word kala, which we talked about, and means to end, okay? And sof tispeh. And kala, we also had aseh kala in the previous little section, right? I will end them off. So, at any rate, just an interesting note there. Okay, so will you not spare lamakom, to that place, lema'an chamishim, for the sake of 50 hatzadikim, the 50 righteous people, asher bekirba, which are in your midst? Now, this particular sentence is ripe for misunderstanding, because, and I think most people would say we're talking about the city of Sodom and that there were 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom. But that is not the understanding that the tradition has of this sentence, and we'll have Rashi. I'll let Rashi explain it, and he'll explain that it's speaking in an abbreviated kind of way. So here we go. Ulai yesh chamishim tzadikim. Perhaps there are 50 righteous people. And here's the explanation. Asara tzadikim l'chol krach uchrach. He's saying 10 righteous people for each one of the cities. Remember, there were 5 cities. And so he starts off with 50, implying that if there are 10 in each one of them, to make that total. Let me make sure I'm saying this. Let's see. Yes, and the hey here stands for chamesh, for 5. Ki chamesh makomot yesh, because there were 50 places. So understand that now.
5.
How this is going. Yeah, sorry, 5. Thank you. I'm not listening to myself carefully enough. Going on, this is amazing. Chalila lecha me'asot kadavar hazeh. Far be it from you to do something like this. This is Abraham, remember, speaking to God, right? Far be it from you to do something like this. Lahamit tzadik im rasha, to kill a righteous along with the wicked. V'haya katzadik karasha, in which case you're going to equate the righteous with the wicked. There won't be any distinction. Chalila lacha, far be it for you. And now comes a series of words that I think could also, be written as just blocking on the phrase, when you write the sampler on a sampler. hashofet kol haaretz. This is a question. Shall the judge of the earth, lo yaseh mishpat, shall not the judge of the earth do justice? Or literally, hashofet, will the judge of the earth not do justice? That's so huge when you think about it. That this is Abraham's understanding of what God is all about. And that element of divine justice. That to do what was going to be happening, were there to be 10 righteous people in a very large city, they were not enough to spare the city, that they should entirely be all wiped out. But Rashi is going to go into this a little bit more for us.
It's interesting that he should speak up so brazenly about this, but not about Isaac
Yes,
and the Akedah.
I agree. I made that comparison many years ago. It occurred to me that's exactly the point you're making, Lauren, that when it comes to his own, it's just the reverse of the way most people act. That when they have double standards, the double standards are when they do something wrong, they have 1,001 excuses as to why it's justified. But when someone else does something wrong, they're on top of it, like, as they say, like white on rice. And Abraham's just the opposite. When yeah, go ahead.
So just a quick question. Maybe you went over this before, because but I guess the question would be, why couldn't God spare the 50 people, with, and still destroy everything else? I mean, what's the, because we know God can do that, right? So why didn't that happen?
Right. So I'm smiling because that's exactly the point that Rashi's going to make right now. That is
Okay.
exactly what Rashi says and puts into Abraham's mouth. Okay? Far be it from you. The im tomar, here we are, and if you should say, lo yatzilu hatzadikim et harashaim, okay? All right? So if you will say that the righteous people aren't, that the power of the righteous people isn't sufficient to save the wicked ones. In other words, that's the argument he's making, right? He's saying, so if there are at least 10 righteous people there, and the rest of that population, right? However, hundreds of thousands, right? Everyone's going to get destroyed, right? Lama tamit hatzadikim. Regardless, why are you going to kill the righteous people? This is exactly the point you're making, David. Okay? Which is what Abraham's saying. Abraham's saying to God.
Yeah, except I guess my question is, that the wicked people still shouldn't, I mean, they don't have to be spared because of their wickedness. That it seems like there wasn't a separate, it seems God has the ability to separate, and they're not being separated, right?
That is what's being said here.
Okay.
He's saying, okay, you don't want to save the righteous, but you still don't have to kill the wicked, but you still don't have to kill the righteous. That's what he's saying.
Got it.
Exactly your point. So that's his argument. That is his argument. He's saying to God, you're capable of sparing the righteous and killing off. If you need to kill off the wicked, okay, got it. But at least spare the righteous. Why do they have to die along with them? That's his saying. You're capable. Chalila lacha. So he's explaining this chalila lacha, and this actual word here, chulinhu lacha. This is something that profanes you. It's foreign. It doesn't belong, right? And generally, we talk about chulin referring to foreign substances on the altar. So the opposite of kadosh is chol, right? The sacred, kadosh, the chol, profane. So he's saying that he's giving the sort of connotation to this word that means God forbid, right? This is a profane thing for you. Yomru, they're going to say, people, in other words, it's going to lead to a profanation of your name, Lord. Yomru, people are gonna say, Kach hu umunato. This is the way he works. This is the way God devises. Shotef hakol, he just combines everything. Tzadikim urishaim. Doesn't matter. You don't have to be righteous. It's not going to make any difference whether you're righteous or you're wicked. It's the same fate. It's not going to make a difference. Kach asita. Look at this, he says. And not only that, Kach asita lador hamabul. You did this in the generation of the flood. So interesting, right? Because we're inferring here that they may, and this is a question that was raised in our discussion, right? That they may have been righteous people in the generation of the flood, or the dor haflaga, and also in the generation of the separation, right, where the nations were scattered. So, look. The Torah says basically God couldn't find a single person other than Noah in the generation of the flood. We don't get any such comments in the generation of the scattering. But what happened with that generation, of course, is they were scattered. They weren't wiped out. The generation of the flood was wiped out. Okay, kadavar hazeh, something like this. Lohu, you shouldn't be doing kadavar, like this thing. And Rashi, again, pulls out the kadavar, likes this. So, in other words, lohu, not the thing itself, velo keyotzebo, nor anything resembling it. How can you do this? And he says, chalila lacha. The fact that it says this in the second time, right? It says chalila lacha twice. And so the implication is chalila lacha ba'olam hazeh, chalila lacha, far be it from you to do it in this world, le'olam chalila lacha second time, le'olam haba in the world to come. Now, this is puzzling. It is puzzling. And I checked to see if Siftei Chachamim, Siftei Chachamim is a compendium of commentaries on Rashi that is linked together. So I'm going to stop the share here and take a look at what it says in Sefaria that have Siftei Chachamim. Let me see if I can find it. Give me a moment and make sure I can get it up. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully we're going to see this. 1 second, and there's the share. And make sure I can find it. Here we are. Yep. Here's the Siftei Chachamim. And they, lohu velo keyotzebo, right? So since it has a translation, I'm just going to read the translation here. So neither this nor anything like it. Let me make sure I've got the, lo olam haba. That's the one we want to look at, right? In the world to come. Okay, so Siftei Chachamim. This is as is stated in Perik Chelek, this chapter, that the people of Sodom have no portion in the world to come. In other words, the implication is that the righteous would be wiped out in the world to come as well. God forbid you should do this in this world, wipe out the righteous along with the wicked, and the next world as well. So that's one understanding. But the Maharshal explains it as follows. Maharshal is a really wonderful commentary in the back of most Vilna Gemaras. You'll find Vilna Shasas have the Maharshal. I think his name is, Morenu Harav Shlomo Luria is his name, right? If such an act is done in this world, there is sacrilege to Hashem's name. That we got. And even in the world to come, where sacrilege to Hashem's name does not exist, no reason will yet be found why you destroyed the righteous with the wicked. In other words, I guess I could say that it's as if he's saying, no matter what universe, that behavior, there's no way to justify that in any universe. There's no way. I'm going to stop this share and go back to our other one. Make sure I have it. Okay. A moment. Okay. So that's helpful, very helpful actually. Okay. And here's our verse. hashofet kol haaretz, shall the judge of the earth. And Rashi makes a grammatical observation. He says, nikud bechataf patach. Let's take a look here. There, this is the chataf patach, ha-shofet. So normally, when the hey at the beginning of a word, that preposition refers to the definite article, right? Habayit, hamakom. That is generally it's punctuated with a patach, just this no shava next to it, and a dagesh in the next letter. There are exceptions having to do with letters that are guttural letters, but basically that's the way it's done. But here it's with a chataf patach, and that is the interrogative hey. So the letter hey as a preposition sometimes refers to the definite article, but sometimes it refers to an interrogative, that it's a question, right? So this is what he's saying. Let me find the little thing. Chataf patach hey. That the hey has a chataf patach, shel hashofet. In other words, hashofet, the judge. Will the judge, right? Lashon tmiha. It implies a question. V'chi mi shehu shofet. Indeed, the one who is a judge. Lo ya'aseh mishpat emet. Should he not be practicing a judgment of truth? That's the question. And that's a very good question. When you're put in that position, because being a judge is a very powerful, powerful place, which just means that the demands on your integrity become multiplied tremendously. But look at the lessons that the Torah is trying to teach us regarding ourselves as human beings. What we need to do? Yeah.
Why didn't Abraham just assume that that God knew better than him who was righteous and who was wicked? Like we say, Baruch Dayan HaEmet, that we
Right.
trust in God's righteous judgments, even when we don't see it ourselves. We just have to either, believe that God is just and we don't know, or we have to not believe. Why doesn't Abraham just have the faith in God to accept his judgment?
I love the question, because Noah does exactly what you just said. And I think this helps me understand, Lauren, you are helping me understand the very opening phrase that God uses to Abraham when he says, Lech lefanai, go before me. And he doesn't say that to Noah. And we understand Lech lefanai, that Abraham understood that as meaning a situation like this. Okay? That God was telling Abraham that he needed to take this position of showing such a love for humanity, okay? And such a love of righteousness and such a respect for righteousness that he would ask of God, if not demand, okay, that the righteous be fully compensated for their behavior.
So this was another way of testing Abraham, because God knew what he was going to do. He just wanted Abraham to feel like he was bringing it out.
Right. And look at this. As I said, this is so contraindicative of human behavior, which tends to be self-centered and self-serving. And this and the points you brought out, right, in contrasting his behavior here with these really wicked cities, right? But also assuming that there would be righteous people there. That he wasn't cynical to a point where he just gave up on everybody. So there's just, there's so much that's buried into this when we take the time to try and look under the surface. And of course, Rashi's helping us, using the tradition to help us to do exactly that. It's beautiful, I think. This, to me, that statement, Hashofet kol haaretz, lo ya'aseh mishpat, is just So powerful. It's one of the, if you want to say the 10 greatest phrases, most people know V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, most people know tzedek tzedek tirdof, but they don't know this one. And this one is so, that's the one that needs to be on, on every judge's desk. Right? When you have that kind of power, that it just screams responsibility. But we're living in a world which, as I said, my thought about modernity is just how, self-indulgent and self-centered we've become, generally speaking. That there's something about modernity, because even if not everybody's necessarily a humanist, nevertheless, humanism is probably the implied religion of the subtle religion of so many people, at least in Western society I can speak of, if I can say such a thing. But of course there are also some incredibly righteous people. There are. So, let's go and just okay, I'm going a little further here, although we're almost ready to stop. Vayomer Hashem, so this is God's response to Abraham. Im imtsa bistom chamishim tzadikim, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous people, betoch ha'ir, in the midst of the city, v'nasati lechol hamakom, I will, nasati means lift up literally, but it means, I will have forbearance for the entire place, ba'avoram, on their account, for their sake. So here we go. Im imtsa bistom v'gomer l'chol hamakom, the entire place. And when he says l'chol hamakom, the entire place, Rashi's again making us aware that it refers to l'chol hakrachim, to all the cities. So Rashi still has a question to answer, so why doesn't the Torah make it clearer that he's talking about all the 5 cities? And he says simply this, it's a figure of speech. And he says, Lefi Sodom haita metropolin. I think you know what that word means. Because Sodom was this metropolis, v'chashuva mikulam, and had more significance, was more important than all of them. Tala b'hakatuv. And for this reason, the scripture uses Sodom as the example to represent all 5. And that is actually a figure of speech, where you take something that is very important and make it a reference to the entire body. So, for example, when people talk about Washington, right, referring to the city, the capital city of Washington, and they're really talking about the United States, I think that's an example. There are probably better examples, but it is a recognized figure of speech. And we will stop there today. And I'm going to take this and move this down here. And I'm going to set the bookmark here too. Okay. Very good. And stop the share. And stop the recording. And thank those who have been following us, and wish you a good Shabbat.